Hey guys, want to see us play games? Check us out at twitch.tv/BattleGeekPlus. Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. So, A Link to the Past is my personal favorite Zelda game of all time, and there are so many things I could talk about. But don't worry, I'm not going to take up all your time. So sorry, Ocarina of Time, you're a great game, but I still like Link to the Past a lot better. So I remember back in 1992, I was reading about this game in certain magazines like Game Players, Nintendo Power, and I was like, I want this game. I really, really want this game. Because growing up back when the Super Nintendo was new, you got to see a lot of games make the big jump from the NES to Super NES, like Super Mario World, Castlevania, Ghosts and Goblins, and now Zelda. And Zelda looked amazing. And the sad thing is, I wouldn't have my Super Nintendo until December of 92, and this game came out in April of 92, and I was like, I just want to have a Super Nintendo so bad. So I got my Super Nintendo in December of 1992, a little bit after Christmas, because I begged my parents, because that's what kids always do. So the first game I bought for my Super Nintendo was Street Fighter 2, and my cousin, when he bought his Super Nintendo, he bought Link to the Past as his first game. So when me and my cousin got bored of our respective first Super Nintendo games, I let him borrow Street Fighter 2, and he let me borrow Link to the Past, and it was the exchange of a lifetime. Not only did he get obsessed with Street Fighter 2, I got super mega obsessed with Link to the Past. Now the first thing I distinctly remember about this game was the instruction manual. Now the Zelda games have really good stories, but mostly only contained in the instruction manual. And this instruction manual was like mentioning like there was, the Golden Land, and there's a Triforce, and then there's Ganondorf Dragmire, who eventually becomes Ganon. And it led to the possibility that Ganon had a human form, which we wouldn't really see till Ocarina of Time, but I wanted to see Ganon's human form like so bad, although I had to wait a couple of years for it. And there's also the Legend of the Seven Sages that sealed away Ganon in the Golden Land. I was like, wow, this story is like, whoa. And the thing is, this story took place like thousands of years before Zelda 1. Yeah, and yes, for all the hardcore Zelda fans, yes, there is a chronological timeline of Zelda games. They all fit into the timeline. I definitely recommend watching the angry video game nerds chronologically confused about the Zelda timeline. It might help make a little more sense. But yes, this game does take place before Zelda 1 and 2. So Link to the Past was one of the Super Nintendo games that really benefited from the big jump from the NES to the Super NES. Yeah, I remember letting the title screen play and seeing that fucking awesome story prologue with the really awesome music. Yep, you get to see the legend of the Seven Sages who sealed away the power of the Golden Land, which became the Dark World. And Princess Zelda's time is drawing near. Wow. And just like any good Zelda game, the music in this game is really fucking incredible, like I mentioned before. I love that dark tune that plays in Hyrule Castle. I especially love the Overworld theme. The Overworld theme is basically a remix of the NES one, but it definitely sounds Super NES-fied. And what made this game a lot easier to control compared to the NES versions was you could walk in 8 directions. I remember the first Zelda, I'm having a bit of trouble moving around sometimes, especially when you're in danger, because you can only move in 4 directions on the NES, but this time you can move in 8 directions. Especially once you get the Pegasus boots, this game gets a lot faster. And if you thought the Zelda games on the NES had a lot of secrets, Link to the Past has a crap ton of secrets. I mean, I remember my first playthrough through the game, I couldn't even get all the heart takes. I was actually missing I think 3 or 4. Well, even though there are a ton of secrets in this game, a lot of them aren't that difficult to decipher. I mostly beat this game without a guide, but I do remember having a lot of trouble trying to get the heart container from that place in the Dark World where you have to dig for it. You have to play this mini game and you get a shovel and then you have to dig for it and it's in a random place. Every single time I played the game, I fucking hated that part. So I didn't really find the game like super challenging. I mean, the first 3 dungeons in the light world were pretty decent Zelda fare, but then the challenge really started going up when you hit the dark world. And I thought one of the craziest dungeons was the Skull Woods, man. The Skull Woods scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And I remember the dungeon in the Thieves' Town where you had to find Blind, who's the leader of the bandits, but she's like a monster. And you had to escort her, but I didn't know at the time that she actually was going to be the boss until I was like, what the fuck do I do? And then I went in that room with the light, and I was like, holy shit, she's the boss. I didn't even know that. My 11-year-old mind was just blown away by that fact. Although it is kind of funny, I remember reading in a magazine that you can use the net to deflect Agenheim's magic back at him, and that's how I beat him the first time. Yeah, but overall, you know, the dungeons in the Dark World were definitely tough. I remember having a little problem with the Ice Dungeon, and I also remember Misery Mire. Yeah, Misery Mire was pretty crazy from what I remember. But Turtle Rock I didn't find as difficult as Misery Mire, and then Ganon's Tower, I remember I could never find the compass in that place. I think I found it once, but mostly when I replay through the game, I don't really go for the compass. I just kind of go and beat the dungeon. Now, here's one thing I almost overlooked. I remember back in the day, we didn't really have the internet. We did have magazines, but I didn't have a magazine subscription at the time. So after you beat Agenheim, and he reveals that he's Ganon, and he goes back to the Pyramid of Power, I remember you need to get the silver arrow from the Fat Fairy, but I didn't know that at the time, and before I was going to beat the game, my cousin calls me up saying, oh, hey, how's Zelda going? I'm like, yeah, I'm almost at the end of the game. And he's like, did you find the Fat Fairy to get the silver arrow? What Fat Fairy? Oh, yeah, you have to go back to where your house is in the Dark World and you have to buy this Mega Bomb. So yeah, I went there, I bought the big Mega Bomb, which is pretty useless because it doesn't kill anything, but you have to bomb that room in the Pyramid of Power. Then you meet the Fat Fairy and then you get the silver arrow to beat Ganon. So it kind of makes me wonder how many kids overlooked that when they first played this game. Because back then, there was no internet and all we had were magazines. So what if some kids did not read any magazines or they did not have any friends to help them beat the game? Did they just fight Ganon without the silver arrow and lose? And so I remember Ganon wasn't super tough. He was definitely a lot tougher than he was on the NES version. But the problem is you can fall in the pit and have to fight Ganon all over again. And I fell in the pit a lot when I first fought Ganon, and it sucked. And a lot of the times it wasn't even my fault, because when you hit Ganon with the sword, you kind of reel back, and I've actually hit him and I've reeled back into the pit like a moron. Yeah, so about the ending, it would have been really cool to see what the Golden Land looked like. And also I remember, those kids on the mountain in the Dark World, the dinosaur kid that was kicking the ball kid. And now that they're back in the Light World, my cousin was like, dude, they still look stupid. They still look like they're the monsters from the Dark World. Yeah, it was kind of funny too. I beat this game so many times. I actually tried going into the Dark World without getting the Moon Pearl, and I was like Bunny Link back down in the Pyramid of Power, and then Sahasrara says, you have to go back and get the Moon Pearl. Yeah, so I remember when I beat this game, I saved about 66 times. Back then it was considered how many games you played, and I was always wondering, okay, how can I get that lower? So then I remember the second time I played it, I saved about 123 times. I'm like, how did it get higher? And then I finally figured out, oh wait, it's how many times you save the game. So that's what it means by games played. Yeah, like literally every time you turn on the game and play it. So there was one time I played the game completely non-stop for about 3 hours because I memorized this game like the back of my hand, and I finally beat it and I had 0 games. 0 games, I finally did it! Although when I got the Wii Virtual Console version, I just used save states and I was able to beat it with no games at all! Yeah. Wow, so The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Wow, this game is incredible in almost every aspect of the word. It has an amazing story, it has amazing gameplay, and it has two amazing worlds that make you really want to see the difference between the two. I mean, it's really cool going from the dark world and seeing how it looks like in the light world and vice versa. Because man, those Skull Woods were pretty fucking scary compared to the Lost Forest. And yes, I actually discovered by myself without my cousin or magazines that if you attack the chickens, they're gonna kill you. Those chickens are mean-ass mofos. I learned that the hard way. Although, like most kids, I actually did not discover the Chris Holohan room until I read about it on the internet. Yeah, so a decade later, they re-released this game on the Game Boy Advance, which was really cool, although it was confined a bit more to a smaller screen. And it also had a bonus dungeon too, which I also beat. Yeah, so where can you get this game? The original cartridge kind of goes for a little bit, but not too much. You should be able to get it without really breaking the bank. But I do definitely recommend getting the Wii U Virtual Console version of this. I remember when the Wii Virtual Console version came out, I bought that, and I bought it again on the Wii U Virtual Console, and now it's out on the new 3DS Virtual Console. So I definitely recommend playing it on the go. Yeah, so that wraps up this awesome video game memories about The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. And if you have any memories about this game, make sure to leave those in the comments below. Take care! Hey guys, want to support us? You can support us at patreon.com/BattleGeekPlus because every dollar helps us bring you a better show.